Hi, it's Leah Richeimer with Ladies Talk Show. We are in the middle of a respect show. That's where we're going, I think, here. This has been awesome. And your questions are so appreciated. Keep them coming. info@ladiestalkshow.com. And we're going to get them answered. Okay. So Reet, what's our first question today?
Okay, so still on our respect topic, because it's a very, very hot topic.
Okay.
Rivka asks, what if your husband knows you don't respect him? What if your new actions of respecting him and making him feel like he's the king he feels is fake and makes him feel worse?
That's great. It's a very good question. Never seen it happen. Never, ever, ever, ever seen anyone take on the homework of respecting their husband more and it backfired in some way. So you could be the first, okay? So I don't feel bad. But what I'm saying is a husband, even if you're faking it, when you said, when Sarit started the question, she said, my husband knows I don't respect him. And now you're trying to change that. I would actually maybe sit down either on a I don't know if people use paper and pens anymore, whatever, or on an app or whatever, type in, or on a computer, type in all the things that you appreciate about your husband. Sometimes it's hard for a woman who has spent 10 or 20 years not respecting her husband and putting him down in front of the kids and interrupting him and sitting in his chair and doing all the things that show him that she really doesn't think he's that great. It's hard to turn on a dime because your actions are coming from a fake place, which is fine. Much, much deeper, better if it comes from a deeper place. And the way to do that is to write a journal and write down 50 things that you appreciate about your husband. You think that would be hard, and it might be challenging for some people, but one of them, that he married me. Number 2, that he actually, earns a living, not as much as I'd like, but you know what? He does bring a paycheck home every week. That he actually does help bus his tray. If he doesn't bus his tray, they call it that, take his dish from the table and puts it into the sink or whatever, or he does the dishes, or he helps with the children, or I like the way he interacts with his mother, my mother, whatever it is. Write 50 things, no matter how gritting your teeth and how hard it is and how much resentment you might have for him or anger you have about him on other things. It's a tough exercise, but doing that exercise will give you much more genuine ability to respect him fully, because when you appreciate somebody, it becomes much more natural. So just try it. It's always going to be a big hurdle. The first month or 2 of making that transition from lack of respect to respect, that transition is like, very unwieldy and very challenging. But it'll become a routine. Just know that you're going over a mountain, then you'll get there, and then it'll be much easier in the future. That'll help motivate you and help keep you strong to do it. But again, it starts with a deep appreciation of who he is, and that will really help you to respect him more. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yeah, so Joy actually says, fake it till you make it.
Excellent, totally there.
Yeah. Okay, so Tammy says, as a newlywed, you completely respect your husband and you're enamored by everything he does. And then suddenly, a week later, no, a year later, you're not as enamored and you're bothered by so much that he does. How do you bring back that feeling of respect that you had as a newlywed?
It's a great question. Again, it's fake it till you make it. Who said that, Joy? I don't remember. Whatever, you fake it till
Joy,
you make it.
yes, you got it, Joy.
So it's that's part of it. But the other part of it is, I want to separate something out that's very hard for people to understand, which is that respect is very, very separate from day-to-day irritations. Okay. Respect is something that no matter what is going on in your life, your husband has to, you're mad, you're in a fight, whatever, but he says, well, I think, you would never say, I don't care what you think. Never say that, ladies. Never, ever say, I don't care what you think. That is throwing your husband into the gutter and then not have, where's my husband? Where's the man of the house? Never say, I don't care what you think. So what happens is, you are giving, no matter what he says, no matter what he does, you are holding the line, you are carrying that egg yolk, you're carrying the yolk, you're towing the line of respect no matter what. Now let's come over to here, which is day-to-day life, which is he keeps leaving his smelly socks on the pillow, and then you're trying to change the sheets, and you got to pick his, and you, why the basket is like once you put it right next to the bed. Okay, he can't put it in the laundry. So that's called an irritation. That's not something you lessen your respect of your husband for. There's not occasions that happen in daily life that lower your respect. He loses his job, you still respect him as much. He loses his temper and shouts at the kids in a way he promised he's never, ever going to do again. That should not lower your respect of him. Your respect is like a rock. Okay, here's a rock. We got these adorable props. Respect is a rock. There's nothing he can do or say. He can burp at the table. He can embarrass you in front of somebody. He can do whatever he does. It doesn't lower your respect of him. You got to toe the line. You got to carry this rock your entire life without ever putting it down, without ever it lowering. You need to carry the rock of respecting him no matter what. Irritation's a different story. He leaves the socks. Okay, you're irritated. Your respect stays the same. You're irritated. You say, listen, how can we, make it our problem, not your problem. You're mad at him. He leaves his socks on the pillow. It's our problem. How are we going to solve this? This is something that is annoying to me or upsetting to me or gross or whatever. How are we going to solve this? Do it. If you do that in a nice way, hopefully you can work that out. And we have, we're going to get there. There's a whole chapter on communication. We're going to talk a lot about that and how to say it in a way that your husband can hear it and do something about it and be motivated to do something about it. We'll get there. But right now you have to understand respect is a rock. You got to hold it like a rock. You got to be, never lower that. And in the irritations of daily life, you can be annoyed, you can be upset, you can be hurt, you can be, what other emotions to help me out here? You can be frustrated, you can be whatever, you can have a lot of emotions by being irritated, but that doesn't lessen your respect of your husband. And being that rock and holding that for him and respecting him no matter what is going to give him a stature. And guess what? When your husband has a certain stature and he sees himself in your eyes in a high way and in a high regard, guess what? He'll treat you better. He will take care of you better. He will think of you more often. He'll want to be with you more. Like, this is such a win. I get it. It's hard. Try this at home. Okay, next question.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but Miriam wrote, what if we put rocks in his socks?
Now there's your solution. There you go.
Make him a rock.
Okay,
just put rocks in his socks. No.
Rocks in his
okay.
socks.
So Razy said, my husband wanted to start waking up early, but after 1 or 2 days of waking up, he slipped up and slept in. You had told us not to control our husband, so I didn't go to wake him up. When he came down, he said, why didn't you wake me up? And he was upset that I didn't.
Fine. Okay, so I'm not an advocate for a wife being her husband's policeman. Bad precedent, bad emotional dynamic, bad in almost every way. When a wife becomes her husband's person who's, he commits to this and then she helps him do it, it's going to backfire. Why? Because a man's human and he's going to do it. And then she's going to end up becoming a nag. It's a bad setup for a bad future. Okay. So now when he says, I want to start waking up early, you can use your Beanie Sarah, your woman's intuition. You can say, oh, this is not going to go up. I made that commitment. I know, I'm starting a diet on Monday. So Sunday night, you eat the whole cheesecake and the whole peanut butter cookies with chocolate frosting. Okay. Hello. Okay. So he's a human being. So now when he says, I want to start waking up early, you can say to him, oh, that's a great thing. I wouldn't make yourself crazy by saying, okay, from now on. If you try and bite off a huge chunk, you're not going to be able to chew it. Why don't you say, I'm going to wake up early twice a week or once a week or 3 times a week, whatever a reasonable thing. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm waking up early, or Mondays and Thursdays, Torah reading, whatever it is. You make that decision of when you want to wake up early, but you don't don't make it too big. So you try and lessen these crazy commitments that people make to themselves. If someone starts January 1st, I'm doing this, whatever, say, that's a little bit big, cut it in half. The rabbis say, cut it in half again, and then cut it in half again. And then you'll actually feel like the next year you accomplished something. Yeah, it was little, but you did it. So to answer the question is that don't be his policeman. And when he makes the pronouncement, try and help him to lessen it and lower his expectations of himself, because then he's setting himself up for failure. And then the following words should come out of your mouth. So I really think that's a great thing that you're going to try. I don't want to be your policeman. How can I support you in this without waking you up and nagging you and whatever? I'd really kind of like to leave it up to you and you do it yourself. But if you're saying you need my help with it, what's that help going to look like, and how will that not make me into a nag? He probably won't have a good answer for that, because there's almost no way that you won't end up being his nag. So, he'll say, oh, no, it's fine. I want you to. I really want you to come shake me out of my slumber when I'm having that nice, luscious feeling of on the pillow. You don't want to be that person taking, So then you could say, listen, I don't want to be that person. How about I go and I get you an extra alarm clock, one that, they have these alarm clocks now that have wheels on them. So, at the time, and they wheel off and they roll to the other side of the room, and you have to go up and get them, or they make this horrible alarm sound. Maybe I'll buy you one of those. So that's if you're mad at having to be woken up, you're mad at the piece of equipment rather than at me. Work it out, but don't become your husband's policeman. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Ayelet actually says, so Leah, are you saying be his cheerleader, not his coach?
Wow. That was good, Ayelet. Wow. That is what I'm saying. Yeah. And a wife shouldn't be your husband's coach.
Yeah. And Ilana, good meme.
What?
A good meme.
Yeah. Write that as a line. That's a great meme. Thank you very much, Ayelet. So yeah, but also a woman shouldn't, there are some very wise women out there, and so they think that they can, they help everybody. What are those friends? There's somebody in every group where all the friends call they've got the problems. What are those? They have a name for them. I can't remember. It's blanking in my head. But so if you're that person, you want to be a helpmate for your husband, and you want to process things or whatever. I wouldn't take on a role where you're his mashpia, you're his, you're telling him and, coaching him and, being that role for your husband. It could be the other way around. And again, this is my, political tsunami, incorrect tsunami, washing me away. But a husband is a wife's rebbe, meaning the person she looks up to and advises her and helps her and whatever. If you're like, I couldn't do that with my husband, he'd tell me the wrong things to do. It could be you haven't given him enough respect. And if you gave him more respect and he grew into that person that you would look up to, you would be able to have the relationship with him where he could coach you and teach you. But the ideal from God himself, it gave over that a husband is a wife's rebbe, meaning she turns to him for advice and for guidance and for how should I do this. He raises her in a certain sense. He grooms her into maximizing her potential. Now, a woman does that in a very, very different way. She kind of just stays out of his way and lets him grow and to maximize his potential. And again, we are going to be covering this a lot as we go along, but and how to do this. But there's a lot to be gained for you. I know it sounds like this is hard work, but you're going to have a level of serenity and a level of closeness by following some of these challenging things. They're challenging, and but anyway, the way to start with this right now is to give up any police work that you're doing to manage your husband. Don't feel so like you know it all and you can coach him and tell him what to do and how to do it. Just hold back, say, maybe I don't know the right way. I know a woman I'll just give you a quick example, we'll go to the next question. But a woman, is sitting there and her husband is they're at the dining room table, and she is managing how he's interacting with their teenage daughter. because she knows better, and she needs to talk softly to her, and you need to this, and she's directing him on how he should be with his own daughter, because the noise from the society is saying this is how you should interact and whatever. Well, the people who wrote all those are all women, or something. It's like, sometimes a kid. I don't advocate hitting or child punishment or over or any kind of abuse, God forbid, in terms of that. But sometimes a child needs a manly, like that. They need it. They need the strength of a man, and a woman is busy knocking him down and knocking him down. So I'm just saying, don't be so certain that your opinion is right. Let go a little bit. And I'm telling you, besides lessening your stress level in your life, you will find that, wow, he handled that better than I thought he would. And that's always the case. I've never given that homework of letting go to a woman and her not come back and report to me. I mean, sometimes I don't hear, but whenever they come back and report, they're like, we have a different relationship at home. There's more harmony in the home. And that's what created it. Just step back, let him go his way. Okay, go ahead, Sari. Next question.
Okay, so Aviva says, it sounds like from all this that respect is the number one thing to work on if you have to start somewhere in improving your marriage. Is that right?
100%. It's exactly right. But we are going to get very quickly in the book, we're going to get to you getting your own needs met. You're getting the appreciation that you need, because it's very hard to sustain giving that respect and being making him the king if your own personal, emotional, and spiritual and physical and in every way your needs are not being met, and you're not getting the appreciation you need. So we're going to go right there very, very quick, very early. I think that's chapter 2 or 3. I don't remember. So we're going to get there. Start with the respect, and you will see a trickling into every area of your life, and in your relationship, you will find a closeness you may not have had before. Okay, next question, Sari.
Okay, so Sarah says, can you help a control freak? I've been controlling since I was in the womb when I wouldn't come out on my due date. I just wasn't ready. Where do I begin?
Very good. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of, realize that, standing on one foot, we're not going to shift your whole way of being since the womb. Okay. But we do get very deep into control and, micromanaging. But the thing that will shift the fastest for you is the understanding that if God had wanted you to just run the world, he easily could have done that. You could have just run everything. You could have run your home. You could run the, and like the school would run the way you thought it would be. And your social life would run the way you thought. The shul would run the way, everything would run the way you thought it would be. God could have made it that way, that it all went by your opinion. Well, why did God make it that everybody else has opinion and everybody else has their 2 cents and whatever? It's because the collective information and collective wisdom and knowledge creates a better world. Everyone gets to put their input and so forth. So for you, the big game changer is to what we were just talking about before a little bit, is about letting go, is realizing that, sometimes we're like, oh, I need to put this, and then I need to do that, and then I need to do that, and then I'll get this, and we can't even visualize or imagine that the train could get to the state, could get there without doing all these things. And suddenly someone calls up and say, oh yeah, you're like, okay, so what we need to do is we need to get all the party equipment there, and the tables need to be there, the chairs, whatever, and you have a whole thing, and you're all controlling everything and managing, and they call you up and say, okay, everything's already here. It is? Yeah, Betsy took care of it. You're done. We've had that experience where we thought there was like a whole pile of stuff and steps that needed to go through, and it was already done. So if you can sort of game change, shift your head into thinking that there are other ways that it could be accomplished by other people, and God himself has no limitations on what he can create in your life. And if you let go and stop, grabbing, and speaking from my micromanaging, I know a lot of micromanagers, wink. Now, speaking from the micromanaging things, sometimes just letting go things, letting go and letting God, God will just take care of it for you. So if you start with that, it will lead you on the road to less feeling like you have to control everything, and you'll be closer in your relationship. Now, the way to do that is things that you start getting stressed about or anxious about that need to be done. Say, if this didn't get done, it would be okay. So it's just a little bit letting go. That's the start. And we'll get to more skills and more tools for doing that as we go along. But that at least give you a start to start thinking about. Okay, good. Next question.
Okay.
Where are we holding on time?
So
Are we okay?
we have about 8 minutes.
Hmm.
So Jennifer says, if you're in a difficult marriage, how can you help? At one point in chapter 1, you were saying that you should try to help others and spread the knowledge, etc. And she said, if I'm in a difficult marriage, how can I help others when I can't even help myself?
Right. So that's true. If you're in a difficult marriage, I probably wouldn't spend your time helping other people, because it's kind of, I don't know if it's hypocritical, but it's, it's not going to be, you might give the wrong advice. So maybe that's, something you haven't necessarily mastered in yourself. I mean, we all have our ups and downs, myself included, so it's kind of like, people are watching. And sometimes I have people for Shabbos lunch or whatever, and I'm like, I want to say something to my husband. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say that, so we're all a work in progress. Got it. But for you, if you're in a difficult marriage, most women don't understand that how much control they have on making their marriage good. Now, you could have, God forbid, an abusive husband, or you could have an overly controlling husband, or a husband with addictions, and these things. I hear about these all the time. It's a heartbreak. So there's some situations that are extremely, extremely challenging, but I don't think a woman really understands her true power. A lot of women are like, oh, when's the men's class? And it's like, yeah, I hear that. Men aren't flocking to classes. Okay. So, but the women, if we understand what we can do to maximize the status, in other words, we may never get an A+ marriage, but if we're in a C- marriage that's dragging along, these are arbitrary things I'm saying, labels, but if the C- everybody has the power to go from a C- to a C, or C to a C+, or from C- to a B+. Women have that power. We're going to learn all the tricks and secrets and how to do that. But you have to understand, you are not a victim. To say, oh, it's all his fault makes you kind of a victim. Now your hands are tied. What's the point? But if you understand how much power you have, and how much just shifting one thing, listening to him more, or stop trying to micromanage him, or stop trying to tell him how to live his life and let him lead a little bit. I don't know, I'm making a crazy examples. I'm just saying there are many, many things a woman can do. And even if it's 1% better, that will grow over time. So to answer the question is, if the marriage is not good, first of all, I wouldn't be teaching marriage. I think you've got a point there, but I would not categorize yourself. We don't have a great marriage. I would say we're a work in progress like everybody else. And I'm going to do A, B, C, D to make things better. Both in myself. I'm going to go to therapy and learn why I fly into rages when he doesn't do what I want. I'm going to go talk to, my Rebbitzin and find out what I can do, what meals I can make. That my husband's always complaining about the food in the house, and that bothers me. I don't want to be a great cook. I don't have the strength or the energy or whatever to become like the Susie homemaker, whatever. But what can I do better? I'm going to go speak to somebody so that to please my husband more, whatever. I'm just saying, look in your own life, in the 100 things you could do, and pick one and work on that. Okay, next question.
Okay, so this is the last question. Esther says, at one point you spoke about a woman tuning into her Bina Yasera, her womanly wisdom, when she wants to guide her husband. She said, I never felt like I've been able to tap into it. Do you have some advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. And It might be, you might be thinking like you're some spiritual reality comes over you and woo, and then you share it with your husband. That's not really what it is. It's kind of like, your husband says, oh, on Sunday, we're going to go for the hike for the whole day and the whole family is going to come and blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, oh, Passover's coming. We got to clean the dishes and whatever. And, you have, I would say whatever opinion you're holding could be your B'nai Sarah, could be your wisdom. It comes out in a strong feeling like that's not the right thing, or a strong feeling we really should do this. Sometimes you're just driving along and you think, oh my goodness, we haven't called Auntie Hilda for, a few months. We ought to give her a call. It's kind of like part of it is a wave of gut feeling. But it usually comes out as an opinion. You have a strong opinion about something, and it defies logic really sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, but those kinds of things, that's all it is. It's a strong emotion or strong feeling. And some things you have to squash, like, that if you go on this hike with him the whole day, he's going to have the strength and koyach to continue helping you with Pesach cleaning. Whereas if you say, okay, let's go for 2 hours and then come back, whatever. But again, how you give over your B'nai Sarah, it makes a difference in how it's perceived and how successful it is. So if you were to say, oh, we can't go for a hike all day. Are you crazy? It's Passover. We need to prepare. That's not going to go over so well. And it's not going to give him control. It's going to throw him into the gutter. He's not the man. He's not the control. He's not the, strength of the household. Okay. But if you were to say, oh boy, I would love to do that. That sounds wonderful. I'm a little concerned about Pesach. Do you think that would it be the same to you if we went for a half a day walk, a half a day hike, and then spend the other half, at least getting all the Pesach dishes out of the cupboard or whatever it is, or do you think if we go on a hike, will give us the strength to do what we need to do for the rest of the week? What do you think, dear? You're putting in his place to let him have control and decide an ultimate decision. Not every time, but most of the time, the ultimate decision should lay with your husband. And then he's going to want your opinion every time, or not every time, but a lot more. Right now, if you feel unheard, your husband doesn't listen to you, doesn't ask your opinion, doesn't ask your advice, doesn't include you in big decisions and whatever, I'm not saying it's your fault, but I'm saying there is definitely something you can do about that, which is if you let him feel like he has all the ultimate control and the ultimate decision, he's going to turn to you 1,000 times more. And that's Gemara. So I don't know what page it's on, but there's a whole we have bulletproof sources that explain if you let your husband have control, he'll bend his ear. That's how the quote is. The source says something, he'll bend his ear to listen to you. Whereas if you try and take control and rule over him until he won't listen to you. So there is something you can do about this. But the bottom line is, when you have this overwhelming feeling or you have a strong emotion, that's your B'nai Sarah. Sometimes you should listen to it and share it in a kindly way and make it as a suggestion. Sometimes you should just say, you know what, you can gut feel his answer. If I talk to him about cutting that hike short, he's going to feel unrespected, unpowerful, unstrong. I'm just going to zip my lip. I'm just like, okay, we're going on a hike, everybody get ready, we're going on a hike, and then do the best you can to support him. Okay, this is Leah Richeimer for the Ladies Talk Show. See you next time.